Good morning, men. Aaron here. I am super excited to share today's video with you. Today's video is an audio recording of a Q&A panel that I got to be a part of alongside Reed Robinson and Jordan Townsend from Mount Home Young Adults. We got to talk about what it means to be a biblically masculine man, how to be more of a man if you're not really much of a man's man, how to attract a godly woman, and how to be a leader in your relationship with a woman. I hope that today's video blesses you and that it helps you to live relentless.
Pretty good. Excited that it's just us boys now, which means we can let our hair down and talk about our feelings. Yeah! Sounds great. You guys ready? Yeah! Lucas is ready. I remember your name. Hey, I'm excited for this, man. You know, the topic of being like a real biblical man is really close to my heart, and it's because it's not really taught a lot. You know, like it gets taught, but when it is, it's pretty vague. I've been to a lot of men's events. I've been to a lot of like marriage conferences, and pretty much like what you hear as advice to men is like lead like Jesus. You've all heard that? Yeah. Okay, I've heard that a million times, and that's great, except for no one's going to explain to you what it means to lead like Jesus as a man. Yeah. Which is not very helpful. Do you agree? Yeah. Like, okay, I guess being a man is like being homeless and laying hands on blind people, but that doesn't really help you with how you're a husband. Yeah, right. And, you know, I would suggest to you part of the problem is that we hear about the soft side of this a lot, and we don't really hear about the strength of what it means to be a biblical man. Would you agree? Yeah. It's like Speed Racer over there, those cars. Lily, you learned how to be a man tonight? You ready? She's ready. Yeah, we hear about the soft side a lot, but what we miss is the strength. And you know, it seems like what happens is you go to something about being a man, and you hear over and over again, like, men, die to yourself. Amen, I agree with that. Men, you got to be gentle, you got to be kind. Amen. And then there's one or two comments about, and we can be strong, and we can be tough. And then it's like 13 apologies after telling you can be strong. But not overly strong. I mean, I'm not talking about being domineering. It's like everybody's falling over themselves to apologize for being a strong man. That's why I don't like going to anything men anymore. Any men's event is like kryptonite to me because I just can't stand watching men fall over themselves to apologize for being masculine. Yeah. So through that lens, I want to talk tonight. And is there a side to gentleness, kindness? 100%. And is it juxtaposed and balanced by strength and fearlessness? Absolutely. And so tonight you might feel like, man, there's really a bent towards like what you might call the harsh side of being masculine or the tough side of being masculine. And you know why? Because we're preaching against the extreme. Tonight I want to add some balance to the common message that gets preached to men. And are you good with that? Are we all here for that? So if you have some questions, it'll be perfect. We're going to talk, we'll share, we'll go over some questions ourselves. And then we'll open it up for questions from you guys. But like, you might need some clarity on some things. That's great. Just ask some questions to us. We're ready for that. But we want this to be a little different from every kind of men's conference, men's talk you've ever been to. Yeah. Because I'm tired of it, frankly. Has anybody gone to men's events? Yeah, were they good? No. They were. You read an alright one? Okay. Let's do something better than that. Let's be honest. Let's talk about how you don't have to apologize for the gifts that are in you. They might need honing. They might need sanding down. But there is no need to apologize for the strength and boldness that's in you. Yeah. Amen? All right. Who are you guys? What's your name?
Reed Robinson, man of 25 years.
Excellent. He's got experience. What do you do?
Here or in general? Both. Here, I am on our young adults leadership team. I serve in our SPIN student ministry. I lead 9th and 10th grade boys with Ben Woodman. He's an awesome leader. I serve under him. And then I head up one of the weeks on our security team here at church. And then outside of that, I work in precision agriculture. I drive around and talk to farmers all day long. Help them make better decisions. It's very fun.
It's awesome. Come on, bro.
Cool. I'm Aaron Bellgowan, a man of 21 years. And I'm also on the security team. I help lead young adults here. What I do on the civilian side, or not the civilian side, outside of church.
When I'm not being a Christian.
Outside of church, I work for the National Guard.
I'm in the Army of the
Not
Lord.
super crazy stuff, but on the weekends I get to shoot big cannons, and that's a lot of fun.
Artillery, bro.
Artillery. It's good to be a red leg.
I'm Jordan. I'm a man of 24 years, and I'm in ministry, which means I get coffee with people and pretend it's a job. It's great. Yeah, I've been married for almost 2 years. Aaron's been married for a year.
A year.
And Reed's been married for 0 years because he's uneligible. And you can't help that. Sometimes you can't. So a lot of you will be able to help, but some of you will be like Reed. And I'm sorry.
I didn't know that avenue.
So if you want, Reed will have a support group afterwards, so you can share your feelings.
I'll see you there.
Yeah, we'll definitely be there as well. Okay, so we have a couple questions that we want to go over, and we'll kind of just each briefly answer if we want to. You know, you can skip some if you want, but we'll go quick through those because we really want to get to questions that you guys have. So if you have some, just write them down, and we'll make some time at the end. But the first one that I wanted you guys just to speak to quickly is kind of what I referenced at the beginning. So what pieces of masculinity do you feel are currently under-taught or completely excluded in our culture?
I'll go first. There's an essay that C.S. Lewis wrote one time. It was called The Necessity of Chivalry. And in that, he talks about the two sides of being a chivalrous man, or what would be considered the ideal man. And that side is being meek when you're at peace, and being absolutely ferocious when it's time for war. And it's not being one or the other or being the middle ground of that. It's being ferocious to the ultimate degree that you can and being gentle to the ultimate degree that you can. Yeah. I think that the ferocity side, the tough side of being a man is not taught whatsoever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got 2 points on this. One right out of the gates is like when it comes to masculinity, men are supposed to be the leaders. The Lord has established us at the head of his, the kingdom here on earth. He made man first, and he gave us dominion over everything. So that is our actual role. God says you guys are in the first place, and I want you to lead from that position. It's not like something that we can compromise, or it's not something that we need to be considerate and help pass off to other people. It's our responsibility. With that blessing of leadership comes the responsibility, and with the responsibility comes the blessing. So we have to be able to say, all right, the Lord's established this, so I'm unashamedly going to lead from that position. I'm going to take authority when I need to take authority. We'll dive into more of what that talks about. But God has put you at the head, and that's countercultural right now, but don't be ashamed of it. Yeah. 2, there's the old saying, boys will be boys, and it's very much talked down upon, because it's just what everybody says when some guy does something stupid. They're like, oh, well, boys will be boys. Well, not speaking to that concept, but when you guys are hanging out with each other and just going buck wild and getting dumb and crazy and doing the stupid things that everybody frowns down upon, don't shame that. Jordan and I spend a lot of time together, pushing each other's limits and doing things that are edgy, but it helps hone each other in. I trust Jordan more than I trust anybody else, because I've gone to limits with him and been strengthened and pushed by him. It's that iron sharpening iron concept. So that wildness that's put inside you that everybody says you need to tame down and just be okay. When you're around other men, don't let it be tamed down. Push and grind against one another, and really hone yourself in. It's so important. The enemy wants us to be tamed and controllable. Yeah. And when you're out pushing your boundaries and finding out what you're capable of, that's driving him crazy.
Yeah, that's good, man. Also, just to speak to the activities thing, it is true, the boys being boys is that concept that gets eyes rolled at it. You know that the testosterone count of current men is dismally low right now? There's all kinds of different measurements, it's hard to tack down. But essentially today, the testosterone level of men is significantly lower than it was 50 years ago at the same age. Okay, so you have to start asking why. And the general consensus you'll get, there's a lot of different studies on this, but the general consensus is because we don't do testosterone producing things.
Mm.
We sit inside, and a lot of us play video games, or a lot of us just do sedentary things, and it doesn't produce testosterone in our body. Yeah. So, and that does, of course, obvious things lowers our sex drive, which does not set you well up for marriage. But on top of that, it limits your drive, it limits your ambition. Right. So now men are not achieving and striving for greatness; they're settling.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Right, sometimes we think that this is a spiritual problem, and it's a chemical problem, and it can be solved if we will go outside and maybe be boys. You know what I mean? So what Reed's saying isn't shallow. That's really deep. And for a lot of people, I just don't feel the motivation to do anything. I don't want to do anything. It's lift weights, wrestle with your buddies, run around in the woods and chop things down.
Amen.
You know what I mean? It's not about it. I'm not trying to get you to be the Rambo guy for no reason. I'm just telling you that it will do wonders for you. Going out and doing something active,
Yes,
pressing
absolutely.
yourself, facing a fear and refusing that fear will do something chemically and spiritually for you that will push you towards being the man you're supposed to be. So there's real depth to that. Does that make sense? Yeah, absolutely. Beautiful thoughts. I love it. Okay, so my answer to that is what's really excluded from being taught or under-taught is strength. So 1 Kings 2:2 says this. David is dying, and he says to his son, he says, I'm going the way of all the earth. I'm dying. So be strong and prove yourself a man. I read that verse, and I was like, David, that is totally unbiblical. Because my whole life, I've heard so many people be like, men don't have to be tough. Men don't have to be strong. Men can cry. And I'm not saying men can't cry. But if you say men can cry too much, you get men who only cry.
Yeah, bro.
You know what I'm saying? You preach a true message too many times, and you get somebody at an extreme that you never wanted them to be at. And that is, I think, what we have right now.
Yeah.
We have men who we've told them so many times, you don't have to be Clint Eastwood tough, you don't have to be the Hulk, you don't have to be the hero. And can I tell you something? Yeah, you do.
Right. Yeah.
You do. And here's why you do. Because someday, you're going to have a family who, when the waters get high, you're going to have to carry them on your shoulders.
Right.
You're going to have to be strong enough spiritually, physically in some cases, emotionally. You're going to have to you're not going to have to live a lifestyle of not bowing to fear so that you can stand up and do that thing when the time comes.
Yeah. Wow. Come on.
So to be honest with you, I'm sick of hearing people being like, you don't have to be a tough guy. I'm like, why do you think that? Well, you really think that? Talk to any 70-year-old man who's been through some crap and ask him if he had to be a tough guy.
Come on, right. Come on, bro.
I think you're a tough guy.
And watch him laugh when he hears all these 20-year-olds be like, you don't have to be tough. Shut up. What are you talking about? What are you talking about?
Yeah.
That's a joke. Men can cry. I'm all for that. I cry every time we sing any song with the name Jesus in it. I'm good with that. But I got the flip side too. I'm a little girly, but I balance it out. I also play with G.I. Joes. But are you tracking with me today?
Yes. Yes.
You cannot preach one extreme and not expect to get a warped result. We have to preach strength. My next question is this. Okay, so I'm talking about strength. What does it mean to be a strong man? So can you guys go into that a little bit? What are your thoughts on what it actually means to be a strong man?
You always hear the old term like, "We'll never let him see you hurt, never let him see you cry, never let him see you break." And everybody looks at that as like, "Oh yeah, just be macho all the time." Like, I'm not talking about being macho. When I'm saying like, don't let anybody see you scared, don't let anybody see you break, I'm specifically talking to like, you know, your future husband or your future husband. Your future wife.
Cat's out of the bag now.
Yep. Shut up, man. When you're a future husband, when you're talking to your wife, like be strong for her, for your family that's like relying on you. Be strong for them. Don't let them see you break. Don't let them see you scared. You have to be your face has to be set to stone on your mission. Like, you don't have to be this macho guy. When things are like bad, they're bad, and that's fine. Like, acknowledge that, hash it out with the people that you trust, like, find your people that you're close with, your other men that see your perspective, know what you're called to, understand who you are, and, like, sit down with them and say, like, hey, I'm really going through it. I need help.
Yeah.
There's strength right there. I need help. Be solid and trust in the Holy Spirit, and those around you, under you, and behind you will be buffered from the turbulence in your life. When everything is falling apart, I can think of a scenario. We had like a gal out here one time that like started having a seizure in the middle of service. And like I just went into like what I knew to do as far as training goes, and like I was calm the entire time, and everybody around me was panicking. But when they saw that I was calm, everything was fine. Everything's getting taken care of. I'm on the radio. We got the paramedics coming. My demeanor and my calmness, because of what I knew and what was put in me, like calmed the entire situation down, and I was strong in that moment. I had people coming up after, is everything okay? I'm like, yeah, everything's fine. I knew exactly what was going on because I had something going into it. Being strong looks like letting your hope and your faith overflow into everybody else's life so that when they're around you, even when everything is chaotic, they feel that faith, they feel that hope, they feel that peace. You're connected to the source, so you're not getting turbulent all the time. You're steady.
Right.
Yeah.
That's good.
I would say strength is this. It is the sum of the best aspects of masculinity in one word. But what does that actually mean? What I mean by that is there are a lot of different kinds of strong men. There are physically strong men. There are morally strong men. There are mentally strong men. And you would still call all of those people strong. I would say that also part of having strength, and one of the things that isn't taught, is having a backbone. When it comes to conflict, when it comes to conflict with anybody, women especially though, I think. Like, you need to know how to not back down. Especially since I was just talking with, where are you? Cole. Where are you at? Cole? Yes. Or was it Cole? I don't remember. I apologize. I was talking with one of you guys just tonight about the fact that you live in the truth. And everybody else lives a delusion. Everybody else lives a fantasy. You live in the reality of this world. So why are you ashamed of that? Why are you ashamed to present reality to the people around you? You got to have some backbone.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's good. That's really good.
And additionally, it says in this book, the joy of the Lord is your strength.
Yeah.
One of the things that brings me a lot of, makes me want to sit up straight is knowing that the God of the universe is my Father. Have you ever read Isaiah and some of the descriptions about him? It says that he melts mountains. Melts mountains.
Right.
That is the God that you serve.
Right. Yeah.
That should be your strength.
Yeah.
That should be where your strength comes from, where the best aspects of your manhood come from.
Yes. That's good, Aaron.
Well, tonight is now called Mountain Melters.
Well, actually, no. We had a name.
We did?
Yeah, we did.
I don't think you should say it, by the way, Reed's laughing.
No.
Mountain Melters it is.
Mountain Melters it is.
Thoughts, man. Yeah, that's good. Well, when I think about what it means to be a strong man, there's a word that comes to mind. Does anybody know what the word stoicism means?
Yeah.
What does it mean? What does it mean?
Rejecting pleasure and embracing long-term gratification.
Okay. Yes. The most obvious aspect of stoicism is enduring hardship or pain without showing overt amounts of emotion. And I would say to be strong as a man, you've got to show a certain healthy level of stoicism in your life.
Right.
And here's what I mean by this. I'm not talking about bottling things up. I'm talking about having discretion. And so, sometimes we've heard as men, again, this message too, we don't bottle things up. You don't have to hide your emotions as a man. And I get that. But then now we have men who are emotionally vomiting on each other, and that's not really helping us either.
Yeah.
And I would encourage you in this, having stoicism, what does that look like in a relationship, with my girlfriend or with my future wife? Okay, exercising a healthy level of stoicism with your future girlfriend or wife looks like this. Not venting your fears
Right.
to her.
Right.
So good.
There's a lot of husbands and boyfriends that have become their wife's best girlfriend.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you know why? You know why? And some of you that might frustrate you because you're like, well, I'm trying to connect with them, and I totally get that. However, when you're always chatting about, well, I feel this and I'm scared of this, you have just put yourself in position of girlfriend because you're not a leader.
Right.
Yeah.
Come on, bro.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, and here's the answer to this. So you're like, okay, I just hide it the rest of my life, and then I die, a bottled up, dying.
Yes.
That is the correct
That
answer.
obviously can't be it. But can I suggest to you that maybe your girlfriend or future wife is not supposed to be the receptacle of your fears?
Yeah, bro.
And so what I want to encourage you, this is why we need masculine relationships. We need masculine friendships. So when I'm scared, when I feel like a failure, I don't go to Kim like, oh my gosh, I'm terrified. I go to Peter. Peter's a spiritual father in my life. He's like a brother, best friend, dad to me. And I go to him and I'm like, Peter, I'm scared. I don't know what to do. You know what I mean? First it goes to the Lord, but then I'll take it to some men in my life. It doesn't mean I hide it from Kaylin, but I bring it to her once I got myself together and I've got a plan.
Yeah.
Then I'll bring it to her. And that helps me not emotionally vomit. It helps me lead instead.
Yeah.
So instead of being like, babe, I don't know what we're going to do, I'm like, all right, this is tough. I'm not faking that it's not tough like Reed said, but now I have a plan and now I'm going to lead you. We're not just going to wallow in our fears together. Because if you do that enough times, your wife will be confident you can't lead her.
Yeah.
Wow. And that is not the position that you want to be in. It makes it tough to be strong when your wife doesn't believe that you can be strong. If you're always being emotionally turbulent with her, her trust for you will go down incrementally. And by the way, you have to know this because it doesn't feel like this. When you're like, so I've only been married 2 years, but in 2 years I've noticed something. When you're gushing to your wife about something because you're scared or you're frustrated, I mean, for the moment, it's like you're bonding. Like you feel closer, you're hugging each other, crying, she's kissed you, you're like, oh my gosh, it's amazing. But then you start to notice in the long-term perspective, when you zoom out to 30,000 feet, though she might feel closer to you in the moment, her respect for you is decreasing.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, bro. It's good.
I'm not talking about hiding your emotions. I'm talking about leading with discretion.
Yeah.
Does that make some sense? We have to lead as men with a healthy amount of stoicism. I'll do a question at the end. Does that work?
Yep.
All right, perfect. Write it down. Yeah, write it down because otherwise you'll forget it.
I don't know if that's it.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So with what we just said, what does somebody do, guys, if they're like, all right, I hear that, but I'm not like a typical man's man. Like you're talking about like we're talking about running around in the woods, you're talking about being stoic. And like, what do you do if you're not I don't fit in that category of man's men. I don't chop down trees, I don't race cars and do all that stuff. Like, I like to play video games, read books, whatever. What do you say?
What's the question?
If you're not a typical like man's man, what do you do?
Yeah. So I like to read books that aren't about real things, and I like to play video games. That being said, I have a vision for my life that's greater than these things, and I understand that those are entertainment at best and pointless and a waste of time at worst.
Yeah.
So what I have done with my life is say, there is a way that I want my life to look. I'm going to do whatever it takes to make that happen.
Yeah.
And also I understand that as a husband, I am my wife's provider, I am my wife's protector, and I am my wife's priest. And if I'm not physically capable of providing for her, if I'm not physically capable of protecting her, I have failed in my God-given calling as a husband. And that is unacceptable.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. So good.
I'm going to talk a lot tonight. Like it's all linked back to your calling on your life and what the Lord's calling you to do. There's a structure and a hierarchy of like things that need to be important in your life, and I'll get to that in a little bit. But a lot of it is going to like relate back to your calling, your identity, who you are, who the Lord's called you to be. So it's absolutely vital, no matter like who you are, whether you're like the manliest man in the world or like just the weakest little beta in the corner of the room that everybody would like dismiss or like just whatever dismiss.
Yes.
Both of them equally can walk in their calling as a man.
Yeah.
One of like the world will look at them differently, and the world look at that like Jeff Bezos was such a beta when he first started Amazon, and now he's like a sweet dude, right? He's yoked, he can provide, it's awesome. But he pursued his calling, and he did it in confidence. So portrayed in confidence through the pursuit of calling is how you walk as a man, whether you're like you look the part or act the part. When you walk in a room with your head held high, and you speak confidently, and you know who you are, you're not compromising, and you're not like pandering to everybody else's like what you like think you should be. You're doing what the Lord's called you to do. And the reason I know this like works is like my grandpa or our grandpa Reader, he like is a man's man. He like used to own a tractor sales company, and he flew airplanes, and he farmed. He had like cows. He hunted. He provided for his family. But even now, like after he's like getting through, like being healed from cancer, and his body's withering away, and he's like not able to like do things that he used to be able to do, people would dismiss him because he's like, well, he's not a provider anymore. But he still carries himself in confidence. He's still on his mission. He's still on his call.
Yeah.
He speaks in wisdom in everything he does. Like, no matter where he's at, like, he's the most respected man in the room. No matter where he's at. Because he's always walked in his calling, and he's always done it in confidence, and he's never wavered from it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really good, bro.
I was also going to go into how I did ballet one time, but I think that's good.
You just dig the hole.
Yeah, well, digging holes is my calling in life, so.
Yeah.
Together, let's get coffee.
Yeah. When I thought about this question, I was like, okay, what do you do if you're not a man's man? And I was sitting down there thinking about how to answer it, and I just wrote down, well, then just be one. Just learn how to be one. You know, like, I mean, we could come up with 100 reasons for why you don't need to be a man's man, or we could just talk about, well, maybe I just learned to be one. You know, we're making all these excuses for like, well, I don't have to shoot guns and do this, and maybe you don't, sure, but maybe there's benefit to it, and if there is, let's just do it.
Right.
Is that fair? Like, I don't know, like, I mean, I've heard so many conversations like, well, I don't need to do that. It's like, how about you learn? Because, and here's why, because there's real value. Women are attracted to activities and skills that communicate that you can provide and protect them. So like they're like, I don't have to be able to lift weights, and that's fine, bro. Like if you weigh 20 pounds soaking wet, like you're me, but taller, like, okay, I'm not saying you got to be like Bruce Lee or freaking like lifting up 1,000 pounds on the bench press, but what I am saying is like, listen, you need some skills that communicate that you can protect and provide for your future wife.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And we could talk our way in circles around how you don't need to do that, and that's great, but you're going to be in the same rough spot you were when we started. So how about instead of making all these excuses, we just pick up some of those skills? Listen, there's plenty of manly things I don't know how to do, by the way. Like, you bring a broken car to me, I will fix it, and it will come out more broken than it started. And that's how it's going to be. You want to get somewhere, and I give you directions, you will wind up in a different state. And I'm good with that. I don't pretend I'm like, I don't know how to get anywhere. You know what I mean? Like, but the things I do that are masculine, I rock. I'm setting goals all the time that push me. When I go to the gym, I work harder than I did last time, every time.
Yeah. Right.
When I go rock climbing, I always press myself to do something I couldn't do before.
Yeah.
Every time I engage in a masculine activity, whether it's shooting guns or camping or hanging out with my dad, hanging out with Reed, all my buddies, anytime I'm doing something, I lean into it and I excel and push for growth. Does that make sense? I don't need to do it all, but what I do is important. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think we're shooting ourselves in the foot by telling ourselves over and over again, you don't have to do anything masculine. You don't have to do it all. You don't have to be Chuck Norris. But some level right below that would be great. Get into some, if you're like, I don't know how to do anything masculine, learn. Learn. I don't know why we all pretend like we're stagnant people. No one is locked in a room. You have opportunity all the time. You have so many hours in a week free to learn how to do something.
Yeah.
And learn a skill that's useful for your life, that will make you money, and that will show your future wife that you know how to provide and protect.
Yeah.
Yes.
Amen?
Amen.
My dad, he says this all the time, so I'll out him for this. When my dad was young, he was like a little chubby, unathletic kid. And, which I think is hilarious. But he was like just so unpopular, acne, the whole 9 yards, like just couldn't do anything. And so he decided, he's like, I'm going to join martial arts. And he was terrible. Like kids are wiping the floor with him. But he got in there and he trained twice as much as every other kid. Lost all the weight, became the best in his class, and just started climbing the ranks. And eventually he was rated second in the entire nation. Wow. Because he was like, I refuse to be a loser. I refuse to not have any masculine skill. One, for his own self-confidence, and two, because he's like, I want to prove myself as a worthy mate to my future wife. And can I tell you something? We're not preaching humanism here either. It's not like just the ascent of man, become the best you. Like, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about there is a biblical mandate on our life for excellence.
Ooh, I love
And
that.
this is part of it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Christians give themselves sometimes a free pass from this because they're like, it's just about spending time with Jesus. Listen, I love that you spend time with Jesus. You have other responsibilities too.
Yeah.
Yes. Is everybody hearing me? I'm not trying to make any enemies. Are everybody friends with me still? All right. I love you. It's really important. Really important. Okay. What does masculine leadership look like in a relationship? Can I go first?
Yeah.
Okay. 2 things. 1, set boundaries and enforce them. 2, cast vision and hold to it.
Ooh, I'm
Okay.
so glad you went
Slow
first.
down.
Yes. So, set boundaries and enforce them. And here's why. If you do not, especially when you're dating, this is where you have to do it. Because eventually, you're going to have to lead your wife. Here's something that I heard while I was still dating my wife. When we were like listening to some marriage sermon. This guy was talking to women who would like date these dudes that are terrible, saying that they're going to bring them to Jesus or something like that. And he says, you're not supposed to cultivate them. He's supposed to cultivate you.
Yeah.
And this is part of that. This is the duality of women. They will try to push on the boundaries that you set to see what you will do.
Wow.
And if you relent, she will walk all over you and she will hate you for it. If you do not enforce the boundaries that you set, she will walk all over you and she will hate you for it.
One more time.
If you do not enforce the boundaries that you set, she will walk all over you and she will hate you for it.
One more time.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Okay. The second is to cast vision and hold on to it. Vision is like having a plan for your life, having an idea of what you want your life to look like is probably the second most important thing about being a man, period. Because without it, you don't really have anything that you're like, why do anything if you don't have a direction that you're going?
Yeah.
This is what life is not a whole bunch of lines. Morality, purity, and destiny are not lines that you do not cross. They're directions you take your life.
Wow. That's good.
And part of casting the vision is understanding that the vision is sometimes more important, especially if you're dating, not when you're married. Understand this. Vision is more important than the woman. And what I mean by that is this. If you have a direction that you're taking your life, and a woman says, or you have a woman that you can divert away from that direction, pick the direction every time.
Oh my gosh, that's so good.
That is a good word. Yeah.
Pick the direction every time. Because otherwise you're going to hate your life and you will hate your wife.
That's good, bro. That's really good.
Yeah. You need to pick your direction over your wife or not over your wife. Understand this. This is for dating. If you're married, you are married and you have responsibilities. You cannot mess around with that. But if you're dating and you have to make a choice between the direction and between the woman, pick the direction every time.
Yep.
Wow.
We'll do questions.
Questions later.
We'll do
Are you even going to go now?
Hi, I'm Reed. I pick the directions, and I'm married. For real, though. So, oh my gosh. Like, remember how I said there's a hierarchy of things that you need to, like, hold in your life? First and foremost, you need to hold, like, your relationship with the Lord. Like, it wouldn't avail, like, much here on earth, but it would not be a waste of your time if you spent every day and every night locked in your prayer closet worshiping the Lord. It would be beneficial and, like, pleasing to Him. But men are also called to higher things than just, you guys hear me. We're also called to accomplish things while we're here. It's in our nature. It's in our bones. It's how we're created. It's part of our mandate while we're here. It would not be a waste of time to solely worship the Lord, but it is good that we do other things. You need to maintain that connection with Him, like, very aggressively. And then, two, that the next thing you maintain after that is your vision and your calling in your life.
Yeah.
Yes.
And, like, I'm especially speaking to a lot of the single guys in the room or guys dating in the room. She's not worth giving up your vision for.
Never. Absolutely
If
not.
you're married, you're locked in, and it's your goal to champion her on, like, board with what you're doing. But, like, these two can speak to that because I have no idea how that works yet. But seriously, like, stay focused on what the Lord's calling you to do. So, I have 3 words: die, die, and die. Die to yourself and serve Him. That's the first hierarchy. Die to your plans and pursue His calling for your life. That's the second, like, level on the hierarchy. And then die to your comfort and your selfish desire and loving your, I was going to say girlfriend, but, like, you can just nix her out, your wife. Like, die to your, where'd it go? Die to yourself and serve Him. Die to your plans and pursue His calling in your life. Die to your comfort and your selfish desire and loving your wife.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
We talk about, like, husbands love your wives, wives submit to your husbands. Like, the reality of, like, what it looks like to love somebody is, like, painstakingly brutal.
Yeah.
And there's joy in it, but, like, it's actually more of a grind than I believe most people lead it on to be. It's not all like sunshines and rainbows. And as a man, I like that. I like looking at it and be like, this is something I have to overcome. This is like a very large challenge that I have to take on and do it with excellence every day. I have to put my nose to the grindstone to make sure I do this with excellence. And that's what leading a relationship well looks like. You provide spiritually, financially, emotionally, food. If you're going to go on don't date until you can buy her dinner. Don't. If you can't pick her up in your car and buy her dinner, don't date. Just don't even entertain the thought. Provide her a life that's worth sacrificing everything for.
Yeah, that's good.
Like, work hard so that she has something that is like, oh, that's worth following. Lead her well in that, saying, hey, I have vision for, like what Aaron was saying, I have vision and this is where it's going. And you are going to, like, she will test you. Like, Aaron nailed it. She will test you, but, like, you have to stay vigilant, laser focused, and just, like, hammer down because he covered it so well already. I'm not even going to go down the path. Living that type of lifestyle, leading in that type of, like, just grind is an honor. You will hit the pillow every night saying, like, I did good today. I gave it everything. And when you know you've been lacking daily, you're not leading your relationship well because you're going to hit the pillow every night and be like, I sucked again. And she's going to know it. She's going to be laying next to you, and she's going to feel it on you. I don't know what that's like yet, but I know that for a fact.
Yeah, it's true, man. Absolutely. Yeah, I think one of the foundational pieces of being a masculine leader in a Christian relationship is being the initiator. You're called to initiate everything in your marriage. It's not that Kaylin doesn't initiate things, it's that I always beat her to the punch. So like, I'm the one who initiates exercise, going to church, prayer, our goals, our values, everything that I believe in, I'm the one initiating. And it doesn't mean she can't initiate, by the way, right? Like, if she's like, hey, we should go to the gym, I'm not like, submit what? You know what I mean? Like, that's not how this works. But I'm the one who's leading the charge. You know what I mean? Like, wouldn't it be weird if the employee came up to the boss every day and was like, don't you think we should do this? Like, shouldn't we start, like, working on this project? And he was like, oh, yeah, you know what I mean? Like, that would be out of order. Mm-hmm. And so for me, like, it's not that she can't initiate, it's not that she doesn't, but I beat her to the punch 9 times out of 10.
Yeah.
Because I'm the one pushing the bar.
Yeah.
I'm the one always pressing forward. So for me, it's like I set the fitness goals. I set like our nutrition goals. I set our spiritual goals. I'm like, babe, we got to pray. We got to wake up early this morning. We got to pray. We got to go to church. We're going to this thing. And she loves it because she's being led. And it's not that I'm, commanding her around to the left or the right, but I'm the one leading. Does that make some sense?
Yeah.
So you've got to be the initiator. And here's the thing. Okay. Nagging wives are the fruit of emasculated husbands.
Wow.
Wow.
Women don't nag because women are naggers. That's a bad stereotype. That doesn't have to be true. Women nag because their husbands are emasculated and are not initiators.
Wow.
And when you fail to be the initiator, what women will turn into is the nagger. Oh, I wish you'd do this. You really should. You never do this. Okay. I'm not saying that's how it should be done, but I'm saying that's the fruit of you failing to initiate. So how do we get ready for that? Put really simply, just initiate now. So how many of you are married? Oh yeah, like one of you. Okay, one of you. That's great. Okay, if you're not married, whether you're not dating or you're dating, become an initiator right now. When you don't want to go to the gym, go to the gym.
Yes.
When you don't want to go to work on time because nobody will notice you for 5 minutes late, get there 5 minutes early.
Yeah.
When you're like, well, no one will notice if I don't go to church because I don't have responsibilities today, go to church. In fact, go to both services. Become an initiator and become a disciplined initiator. When you're always missing things, when you're always not meeting your goals, you're setting yourself up to be an emasculated husband.
Yeah.
This thing's not about being domineering. This thing's not about being large and in charge. I'm obviously not large and in charge. I'm small and in charge. Okay, this thing is about being an initiator and leading your wife well and being worth following. So be an initiator now. That's a huge part of being a masculine leader in a Christian relationship. Let me jump down. There's one that is important to me. Why do you guys think that masculinity is being attacked in our culture?
Yeah. I believe masculinity is being attacked because I believe the enemy knows like how potent it is, how crucial it is in this world, right? When you if you're a sniper, you're going to go for a headshot. You're going to go for something that's going to be like very effective, like take it out right away. Like attack the thing that is at the head. Always like go for the eyes, whatever it is. Like go for the throat. The things that are most vital, I think the enemy comes at a lot.
That's good.
So man is God's ultimate creation. When he like stopped, he made man at the end. He took special time and like created him very, very specifically in his image. He breathed his breath into him. It was like this like, what's the masterpiece that the Lord like focused in very intentionally on. He's like, this is it. And then he like saw it was so good that he was like, it's not good for this thing to just be by itself. So he made the woman to help him, right? But it was absolute ultimate creation, like a recreation of like a little mini God. We are the crown jewel he's made, and the enemy knows that if he can castrate us, we're easily herded, manipulated, and overthrown.
Yeah, that's good.
I'll read.
Yeah. I think the reason that masculinity is under attack is because it is masculine men drive things and they move things and they make things happen and they make things grow. It is, what's the statistic about women and men in church? Like the ratio? 70-30? Yeah. 70% of women the church is 70% women and 30% men. And I think that shows because churches are dying. They're not growing.
Wow.
When they absolutely should be. Like, men are the ones who build things. Men are the ones who defend things.
Yeah.
Men are the ones, like, a lot of the issues that we have in our families and in our marriages is because our fathers weren't present.
Yeah.
Or the husband's not present, and the husband's not defending against spiritual attack. He's not providing his spiritual covering.
Yeah.
As he said, it is extremely effective to make men not masculine, to make men not drivers, to make men a bunch of sheep. It's very effective in stopping the church. Jesus said that on Peter he would build his church, and the gates of hell would not prevail against it. And gates are a defensive structure. They're not an offensive structure. We should be attacking the kingdom of hell, not the other way around.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
I was fired. And you're saying some good stuff.
Thank you.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's simple. So the reason that masculinity is under attack is because it's the express image of God's headship over us. So masculinity at its heart is leadership. If you're not being a leader, you're not masculine. Like more than axe throwing and sharpening your knives and fixing engines, masculinity is leadership. And all those things play a part in it, but that is at the bottom line what masculinity is. And 1 Corinthians 11:3, Paul is just sort of he's like re-delivering this message that he gave when he was in Corinth, and he says, like I've told you before, God is the head of Christ, as Christ is the head of man, as man is the head of woman. He's just reestablishing this order. And here's what we fail to understand sometimes when we step out of our masculine role. If the world can convince us that man is not the head of woman, we'll be convinced that God is not the head of us.
Yeah.
Say it again.
If we can be convinced that man is not the head of woman, we'll be convinced that God is not the head of man.
Yeah.
There's an established order, and it's representative, reflective of the heavenly realities. That's why, by the way, that's why you can't pervert anything that's precious to the Lord. When we pervert sex, why is that such a big deal? When people just go out and have sex with anybody, no relationship. Sex is a representation of the real thing, which is intimacy with Yahweh.
Yeah.
Intimacy with the Lord. So when you pervert the reflection of it, you're blaspheming the real thing. Listen, when we step outside of our role as the masculine leader, it's not just, that's not best practice. You are, in a sense, to some level, blaspheming what is God's leadership over us. And that's crazy. I'm not saying that to put fear in you. I'm telling you this is a real important thing. What we're talking about today, making men leaders, is not just a good idea. It's a responsibility we must step into. Because it reflects the Father's relationship towards us. And that's why there's been an attack. Last thing I want to talk about before we go to questions is how do you attract a godly woman? Let me tell you.
Be a godly man. And what does that mean? That means have the character of God. Plain and simple. A truly godly woman will see all the work that you put into your body. She'll see your hard work, the money that you make, the nice car that you have, whatever. She'll see all that, but she will care more about what you have internally than all of the flashy things that you can make and all the nice abs that you can create on yourself. Those things will not matter as much as the character that you develop.
It's true.
And it must be the character of God.
Yeah.
If you want a godly wife who will submit to you, you have to be a godly man who is worth submitting to.
That's good, bro.
Plain and simple.
Yeah. Enough said.
Yeah.
Plainly said, show her an adventure that she can be a part of. Live your life in a way that is structured and in order. Have yourself put together. There's a reason why women are attracted to men that are dressed nicely. They look like their life is put together. If they drive a nice car and it's clean, they're like, oh, there's order and there's structure in his home. If his apartment is taken care of, his home is neat, his lawn is nice, he has structure and discipline to keep those things well maintained. Abs help. Aaron's right. Because he is disciplined in his ability to stay fit. And that shows provision. Simple things just show her that okay, when you get up front and you pray, guys, don't go there. When you go up front and get down on your knees and worship your heart out before the Lord, all the girls that are behind you are paying attention to you. And don't focus on that, but know that when you're in that that state, there's a good chance they're probably more attracted to you than any time else. Why? Because they're seeing that is a man that's submitted before the Lord and worth pursuing. Right? There's a lot of little things that you can do that I've unfortunately learned over the years that show a woman, hey, I am worth pursuing or worth being caught up in. When you pick up a child and play with it, if you want to attract a girl, hold a baby. Great tool. Have a puppy. I don't care. But hold a baby. Hey, this is something that I am good at that I need you to be a part of. I've pick up a kid. It helps. But
You don't even have to know him.
dude, just go get a random kid. I need to borrow this. Do you see her? Yeah. But just show her a lifestyle that is worth getting caught up in. It needs to be an adventure. Something that's just enticing to her, something that is drawing her and saying oh my gosh, if I could only be a part of what he's got going on, because his life is together. He loves the Lord. He's good with kids. He dresses well. His finances are in order. That just screams and emulates, I can provide for you. I can show you what it's like to live spiritually, sound and full. We can have a family, but just everything that you want, you can get through me. Be the door that she needs to go through to get to where she wants to be in life.
Wow. Yeah. Say it again.
Yeah.
I forgot it. Be the door that she needs to go through to get to where she needs to be in life. Or wants to be.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, so really well said. I can't say the spiritual side better than that. I would have written here, be the man she's confident can pastor her. Be sound enough with the Lord that she's confident that you can actually pastor her. Mm-hmm. She's confident that when her faith is struggling, you're going to be there.
Yeah.
And you're going to be fearless enough and knowledgeable enough and close enough with him that you can actually pastor her. Hear from the Lord often and inspire her with how your family is going to follow his direction.
Yeah.
If you can't hear the voice of God, a real woman of God's not going to get attracted to you.
Yeah.
Because she's going to know. Whether she knows up here right away or she just knows in the back of her mind, that guy doesn't hear prophetically enough to lead my children to know the Lord.
Yeah.
I don't, it doesn't really matter if you read the scriptures and I got it all highlighted, can you hear the voice of God? Wildly important. You can't pastor your wife if you can't hear the voice of God. And then, practical. Side note, with all the practical stuff we talked about tonight, I want to get something straight. We're not saying it's yeah, Jesus, but then all these practicals too. These all fall as supplemental under having the lordship of Jesus present in your life. You all know that?
Yeah.
Okay, we're not putting them on the same playing field, but they are important. They are important. You're I could be a good spiritual man without exercising and doing all this excellent thing. I understand that. But do you see why we're focusing in on these? Because they get ignored.
Yeah.
So I want you to know that. We're not talking about the practical bunch because it's as important or more important.
Yeah, can I add something to that?
Please.
All areas of your life, all aspects of your life are spiritual in nature. All of them.
That's good. That's so good, Aaron.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Solid.
Easy.
With practical, yeah. Boom. Okay, so how do you attract a godly woman practically? I had written here, fix your disposition. Make eye contact. Speak loudly and clearly. Put your shoulders back. Stand up. Right? Like I don't... Put your shoulders up. Sincerely.
Yeah.
So, how many of you are saved in here? Okay. The living God lives inside you. You are full of confidence, boldness, fearlessness.
Yeah.
And you stand like this and talk like this.
Yeah.
You see where there's a problem? You know what makes me mad, bro? Seriously. Christians are like, they're like, God's in me. I'm not afraid of darkness or the enemy. And then they talk to a girl and they're like,
This is the guy that forgot his name when he met his wife.
Alright, listen, and if you feel that way, I'm not hating on you. I'm saying here. Are you ready for some beautiful words? You can fake it until you make it.
Right.
Yes.
Oh! And here's why. Because you're not actually faking it. You're stepping into an identity you don't feel, but have.
Yeah.
Yes.
If anything you fake because you're not actually it is being disingenuous. Anything you fake because you don't feel it yet but are is being more true to yourself than you've ever been.
Yeah.
So when you see a girl, next time, I don't want you to be like, hey, what's up? Like, you might feel weird and I don't care. Okay, Mark, you're the pretty girl I'm talking to right now, okay? You're fine. Okay? My shoulders are back. I'm talking to you clearly. Shaking your hand. How's it going? Jordan, it's a pleasure to meet you. Okay, I'm joking, but you with me?
Yeah.
Can you just start talking with a level of confidence that's true to your identity as a co-heir with Christ?
Yeah.
I'm not talking about being cocky. I'm not talking about being proud. None of that. But there is a confidence that someone might mislabel as pride. You can worry about that later, but you're called to step into it.
Yes. Yes.
You are called to a level of confidence that's true to your identity as a royal heir.
Yeah.
And you gotta walk in it. You gotta walk in it. So, and little things, standing up straight, speaking clearly, are important. They're not everything, but they're important. Live disciplined. If you can't manage your own life, a woman will never believe you can lead two of them.
Woof.
Like if you can't lead one life, a woman will never believe you can lead two.
Right.
Definitely not four.
Yep.
And women know these things. Because women tend to, unfortunately, it shouldn't be this way, but today women tend to be more forward-thinking than men. By the way, side note, that's because they're replacing masculine qualities. Men are supposed to be the visionaries. Women actually are supposed to think more about today as nurturers. But women look forward and they see a man who can hardly take care of himself, and they know that man can't be a husband to me or a father to my kids. You don't have to be perfect, right? Like, I've got my flaws. Like, I got my life together. My car always looks terrible. Like, it's always packed with junk. Okay, we're all improving. But when Kaylin met me, I was going to the gym regularly. I was on a diet plan that was working. I was listening to sermons. I was putting together material for books I want to write one day. I was going to church every Sunday. I had mentors. I had mentees. I'm always stepping 1 inch closer to being the disciplined man that I know is required to be the husband I always wanted to be. Always will have imperfections, always have things I fail at, always have things I don't make it in, but I'm always stepping into being the person who can lead the caliber of woman I want to marry. I wanted to marry. I had a word, this was years ago, probably 4 years ago. Yeah, it would have been 2 years before I got married. A year before I met Kaylin, the Lord spoke to me and said, you are not yet the caliber man qualified for the caliber woman you're expecting. I was like, oh, like it just, and it hurt, but it was like, I had these huge expectations for a future wife. Like, I want her to love the Lord, be, devoted. I had a list because it's important. I prayed through it. I was like, I want my expectations to be clear. And the Lord was just like, you're not there. And if you meet her, she'll pass you by. I was like, well, I don't want that. So on the practical side, guys, on the spiritual side, that is the bread and butter. You've got to know the Lord. You need a personal relationship with Him. You're not trying to marry a mom. You're trying to marry a wife. Okay, so don't be like helpless. Jumbo over here. All right.
That was really good.
Have the spiritual together, but in the practical, please get that together too.
Yeah.
Don't spend all your money on cars. Don't have a messy room. Don't never go to the gym. Make responsible decisions. And by the way, with everything we just said, I don't want anybody to leave and be like, I'm a failure of a man, like no girls are gonna like me. Can I help you? This is what a community of men is for.
Yes. Yes.
The only reason I have my life together is not because I'm better or smarter than anybody else. I had a father who sat me down and walked me through step by step. Here's what you need to do next. And I obeyed. And sometimes I didn't, and I fell on my face.
Yeah.
And my life right now consists, like, I love this ministry, young adults we have. The real ministry of my life is sitting down with the 12 guys that I sit down with on a regular basis and saying, what's the next step you're going to take to be more of a man?
Yeah.
All right, how are we going to do that? How are you saving? How are you going to the gym? How are you growing emotional fortitude? What are you doing to step into joy and having fun, right? I am always trying to help this community be discipled into being the men and the women that we're supposed to be. Does that make some sense? So please, nobody feel hopeless. Is everybody good with that?
Yeah.
Okay, that is not the goal tonight. Tonight was not about, like, testosterone shaming anybody. You know what I mean? Or, like, whatever. Everything we did say like that, I mean, we're joking. But, like, we want you to be, your arms lifted to be a man.
Yeah.
That's the goal. So if you're feeling like, I'm lost, I don't know what to do, please come talk to somebody. Talk to anybody on the leadership team. Talk to me. Talk to Pastor Peter when he's around here. But we would love to be with you on that journey. Because unfortunately, like Paul said, he said, you have many teachers, but you don't have many what?
Fathers.
And this is the culture of the church. We have many teachers, but we don't have many fathers. And a father identifies himself by raising sons. A teacher raises students. A father raises sons.
Wow.
This ministry is not about raising up students. This ministry is about raising sons and daughters.
Mm-hmm.
Amen? Amen. Okay, cool. Anybody have any questions that they want to?
Can I speak something to that? Like, seriously, do not walk away tonight being like, oh my gosh, this is not accomplishable. Like, my natural propensity, like, I had a great dad that built me up, raised me up, and taught me really well. My natural propensity when I'm not around, like, a bunch of men that are pushing and driving me, having that guy time, having that boy time, if I'm not hanging out around Jordan, my natural propensity is to start waning back and, like, just kind of coming into my shell and just, like, not accomplishing much. And I find myself daily in those moments, like, just totally unsatisfied with life. I'm like, I hate everything I do. I don't like what's going on. I feel like crap. I don't have any motivation. I don't feel like I'm going anywhere. I have no vision. Well, then I start getting around guys like Jordan and Peter and my dad and my Uncle Troy and my Uncle Matt and my cousin AJ. And, like, I just start listening to them, and, like, they're doing big things. They're growing. They're driving, and, like, something rises up in me. And I'm like, I got to get my crap together. Because, like I have to step up. And all of a sudden when I start doing the hard things that are very hard, when it's, like, 12:30 at night and I know I have to go to the gym, and I go to the gym and it's a drag and I'm dogging. When I hit the bed after my cold shower, because that's also hard, but it makes me feel good. When I hit the bed, I'm just like, oh my gosh, I did it. And I just crash. And I wake up the next day and I'm like, time to freaking do it again.
Yeah.
And I grind every day, and it's like, it doesn't feel good, but, like, it doesn't feel good physically sometimes, but, like, in my spirit, I'm like, ah. It just gives me GERD, but it's from being around these guys. The Spartans, like, from age 8 to, I think, 22 or something like that, only spent time with men. And they're, like, known as the greatest fighting force to ever hit this planet before gunpowder. Like, they're just ferocious because they only ever spent time with men, so they're always pushing and driving each other. So just, like, all that to say, don't sit here and be like, oh, I don't know how to do it. Just, like, come talk to one of us, because we love doing this kind of stuff. Yeah. Any one of these guys up here, or Teapot, Jordan, Cody, like, great men that are willing to push and drive you. Caleb Gentry. Seriously.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, come on.
I'll add one thing also. The best thing that you can do to get where you want to be, even if you don't feel like you're that right now, or you feel like you're a failure, is to take the first step. You don't accomplish your life goals, like, instantaneously. You accomplish your life goals by winning the day, every day. And then you win, because you won the day every day that week. If you can do that every week, you'll win the month. And if you do that every month, you'll win the year. And if you do that every year of your life, then you win your entire life. And you're obviously going to have bad days, but nonetheless, daily discipline is how it's done. Small steps taken consecutively is how it's done.
Yeah, come on. Any questions? Yeah, any questions? Yeah.
So I was going to talk about, I guess, about vision part, right? Like, I have a vision for myself. I have goals. I have like things I want to achieve, right? Like I do or gotta do these things. But at the same time, it's like, how do you make sure your path is God's path?
Yeah.
It's like I have desires, like I want things, right? But I also have that subconscious where it's like, I want to make sure God wants this for me too.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. So it's like, even if it's a good thing, like, hey, I want to do this on the crossing. I want to lead my teammates. I want to be a good person. But at the same time, you want to do it the right way.
Yeah.
You know.
Really simply, man, this has been such a helpful lesson for my life. I'm a lion in the public place and a lamb in the secret place.
Right.
Like, I strive to step into the confidence I'm called to in my day-to-day life, in my marriage. But when I get alone with the Lord, I'm like a little boy up on my dad's lap. And I'm like, God, every dream is laid before you every time. Like we sing that song at Young Adults, you can have it all, anyone, anything, your presence is worth everything I can bring. That is my prayer every time I get with the Lord. God, I have these dreams, I want to drive towards them, but none of them will become a golden calf in my life. Are you asking for any of this? And I offer everything to the Lord all the time. Wow. So my confidence in public doesn't mean I come to the Lord, I'm like, all right, Lord, that's not who I am. You know what I mean? I'm a son, and actually he calls me his bride, so I come to him tenderly like a lamb. Does that help?
Wow. Yeah, that was great. Yeah.
I'll also say that if you don't have a good answer, like you can't say for certain you're getting with the Lord, you're doing the things right, and you still don't know, that is not a good reason for you to not go anywhere.
Yeah.
So if you don't know for certain what the Lord is telling you to do, go after the things that you just have on your heart.
Yeah.
And the Lord will correct you as you move. It is so much easier to correct a moving vehicle than it is a vehicle that's stuck in place and not going anywhere.
Wow. Yeah. I like that. Sure. That's good. Because I feel like sometimes, like, we as Christians are like, hey, God, work through me. Like, make me move. Like, do things. But, like, you could sit and not move, and all you're doing is going away from God because you're not doing anything.
Right.
You're not actively pursuing God.
One of the
same thing in just like life too. Like I could sit around and be like, oh, I want to gain strength, but if I don't go to the gym, I'm just gonna be the same dude.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. So one of the things, Jesus at the end of all the Gospels says, go and make disciples of all nations. There are some versions of the Bible, if I am getting this correct, you can correct me if I'm wrong, that say, as you are going, make disciples of all nations.
That's
Yeah.
on the movement. I love that. Yeah. Solid.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, other question?
Yeah, for you guys. So like if someone was struggling with vision and stuff like that, because that's like the hardest part about that, right? You mentioned set boundaries and don't let them be pushed, right? Pretty simple, at least for people like me personally. But as far as casting vision, I feel like that's where a lot of us struggle nowadays. And I think that's a big reason why most of us are emasculated, is because we don't even know where we want to go. And if you don't know where you want to go, you have no drive to do anything. If you have no drive, you become effeminate. So for someone who might be struggling in that area, like what's some good advice? Like how did you guys find your vision?
That's such a good question, bro. That's such a good question. What would you say vision is?
Vision is basically like combination of revelation from God and then also like the desires He's implanted in your heart
Yeah.
as to what you're supposed to accomplish in life.
Yeah,
So vision
yeah, I
is
agree with that.
knowing what you're doing.
Yep. I think vision is like a painted picture of where and who you want to be.
Yeah.
Which is what you just said, but just a different way to say it. I think, again, vision is a painted picture of where and who you want to be. And figuring that out is really kind of a tall order, especially, like, how many of you are under 25? Okay, yeah, like, we haven't been around very long, so we're pretty dumb. And it can be hard to, like, I'm kidding, you guys are, but, like, it can be hard to figure out where you want to end up. So here's the beautiful thing about vision is it doesn't have to be specific. It can get specific as you go.
Right. Right.
So like for people that are like, I don't know what career I want to go into. I guess I'll be an electrician, or I guess I'll be this. I'm like, listen, what do you want to accomplish in life? Because no one's going to be like, well, I want to run wires through a house. That's not what they want to accomplish. But when you figure out what values you want to accomplish, it might make it clear that career choice is the answer.
Yeah. Right.
So when I talk to people, I'm like, what do you really want to do? Well, I think I want to be, I don't know, I want to go into art, but I also want to go into medicine. I'm like, okay, hold on. What do you want to do? Okay, I really want to help people. Okay, so now we've got this really vague, generic vision, and that's excellent. I can work with that. Okay, tell me about how you're going to help people in option number 1. Tell me how you're going to help people in option number 2. You see what I'm doing? I'm weaning down, I'm narrowing down their vision to something specific. And by the way, you can fall and get back up and course correct, but you can't fix stagnancy. So pick something that is in the direction you feel God's calling you and start moving, man. Listen, I was confident. If you asked me 6 years ago what I was going to do, I was like, I'm going to be a doctor. I'm going to be a nurse. I'm going to get my NP, and I'm going to be a doc. And it's going to allow me to leave gaps. I had a plan. I knew what schools I was going to. I knew how much it was going to cost. I was confident. I'm 2 years in, already spent the money. The Lord redirects that. And you know what? I fell down. I rolled. I got back up, and now I'm pursuing ministry. I stayed light on my feet, and I wasn't like, that was such a failure. I'm so thankful I was moving and not staying in a 10-year waiting season. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah.
I was just moving. I was growing in skills that were necessary, and the Lord was able to correct me and adjust that. But somebody just said it, you can't steer a parked car. You know, a guided missile can't be guided when it's on the launch pad. And so for you, man, like pick something that's true to your values of what you want to accomplish. Start moving in that direction, picking up skills. It might change, but you're moving. And that's really helpful. Does that help a little bit?
Yeah.
Okay. You guys want to also? I just need to put something.
Yeah, I think this is like, once again, I always like to draw things back to practicals because I'm like a very just hands-on, like tactile learner. If you're struggling to figure out like what the things in your life that you want to be or what you want to do, look at the general themes of like your social media feeds. What do you find a lot like yourself focusing on? What do you enjoy? What do you like get excited about? What brings you passion? Whether it's sports and fitness or money or being a hero or just like adventure, whatever it is, find the things that like you really excite you and start saying like, what are the common themes throughout all those things? And then say like, okay, that's the things in my life that I really have a bunch of passion for. I have a bunch of drive to like and desire to want to be involved in those. I truly believe that those are gifts from the Lord and characteristics about you that He's designed you to be. And so when you start looking, like stepping back and looking at those and say, okay, God's designed me to appreciate all these things. How do I build my life to be great in every single one of those? And then the other thing is look around at the people that you respect in your life. What are the common themes in them? I started looking around at like a lot of the people in my life that I respect in the business world, and what was the common theme in like all of them? They're all business owners. And I'm like, well, shoot, why am I working for somebody else then? I want to be a business owner. It's in my blood. I want to do it, you know? So I start building my life around what it looks like to be a business owner. And I start asking questions of them, and I start like saying, hey, how did you do it? What are the things I need to be thinking about? I just fill like this big like pot of knowledge from other people. And I start to structure like, okay, well then what does it look like in my personal life? Because I don't know right now, but I have an idea of where it's going.
Yeah, that's good, man.
Find a problem that you care about and fix it. One of my favorite historical figures is a man named William Wilberforce. He didn't really do much with his life. He just got into Parliament kind of because he wanted to, and that was it. But he didn't work that hard at it. He just got there. And when he got there and he became a Christian, he looked at the world around him and he said, the society that I live in is terrible and human beings are enslaved. I want to fix these things. And he spent his entire life doing it.
Yeah. That's good, man. I love that.
If you can't find something that you love, find something that you hate and change it.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
That's really good.
That's killer. Come on. Got one more? Yep.
How do we find balance in feeling like, oh, not doing enough, and so then feeling like we're not doing enough, and then or doing too much, failing, and then not doing anything. So there's the difference between setting your expectations too high, going to one extreme, trying to do every single thing, or you fail and you're like, oh, well, I'm just going to take one step at a time, but then you're not getting anything done. How do you find balance in that, not going to one extreme or the other?
That's a really good question.
I mean, first off, I just, as a person, I would rather sprain my ankle because I'm running than get bed sores from lying down too much. So that, if you run, you're good. Like, I don't run. I never will, so I don't know what it's like to have a sprained ankle, but it's a good example. Okay, like any runners? Okay, you sprained your ankle. All of you have. Yes? Okay. So that will happen, and here's what tends to happen. You sprain your ankle because you're running, right? You're working, and you get tired, you kind of get burned, something's rough, like you crash and burn, and people are like, see, you shouldn't be working that hard. Okay, a failure does not mean you're doing the wrong thing, or striving, or that God's closing a door. This language gets thrown around a lot, and it sabotages people's destiny. When you are working hard in the direction you're supposed to be going, you will encounter failure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that is part of it. I just read a book, and he said, failing isn't what makes you a failure. Giving up because of your failure makes you a failure. Mm-hmm. And that's a good point. And so I think, like, man, expect to fall and get hurt, and skin your knee, and sprain your ankle, and take the time to get better, and then get back and go and keep running. That's not really specific enough to answer your question, but it's a good way to start getting into that. So how do you know when? Good counsel. And don't listen to the counsel of people whose fruit of their life you don't respect.
Yeah.
So sometimes people give me advice, and I love them, and I don't write off anybody's advice, but I will rank it on a hierarchy of importance based on the fruit of their life. Mm-hmm. So if somebody who has not accomplished much in their 30 years of existence is telling me to rest, I do not listen. Yeah. If someone who has accomplished much in the category of life that I want to accomplish, and they tell me to rest, guess what I do? I rest. So listen according to the fruit of their life.
I was just talking to Jordan Depew about this a couple days ago. Knowing where you're at with the Lord, or like on those two spectrums of like, am I going too hard or am I not going hard enough? Like, peace is a huge thing that you need to have in all of it. Jordan and I were talking about, like, how do you know if you're going too, like, taking too many steps ahead of yourself, or, like, not doing enough, or, like, it was just that whole concept, like, getting out in front of your head getting out in front of your feet getting out in front of your head. And I'm just like, look, when I have peace in things that seem chaotic, or when I have peace in things that seem hard, when I have peace in things that seem restful, I'm like, I'm in the vein. Yeah. I'm doing good. I'm grinding. My body might be tired. I'll be fatigued, whatever it may be. Or it's like, hey, I'm over restful, or I'm seemingly over-rested, but I'm like, I still have peace for where I'm at right now, and that I'm not supposed to be, like, on all the time. I stay in that vein always. So, and that just comes from, like, spending time with the Lord, knowing, like, hey, when I'm in his presence and I feel the peace, and, like, boom, there's my benchmark. And I'm like, oh, this is what it's like to be in, like, the presence of the Lord, and this is what, like, heaven feels like. And I have that feeling in things that seem chaotic and, like, crazy, or, like, in things that are just exhausting. I'm like, okay, I'm well balanced, you know. And then you individually balance the other areas of your life, like your physical lifestyle. Like, you're gonna kill yourself if you go to the gym for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
But you'll die in glory.
Yes. Yeah, which it's worth it. You should try it.
You should try it.
You should try it. This is great. But yeah, Lando. I won't use that. But yeah, just like find peace. And even like when your body is tired and exhausted, when you know that you're doing the thing that you're called to do, and when you have peace about it, it's like okay, then I can keep going. Or it's like, hey, I feel like if I were to slow down right now, I'd be in disobedience. Then I can't slow down.
Speaking a little more pragmatically,
You and your big words.
Yeah, I know. It's a matter of priorities also. If you find, and I find this too, because there's a lot of things that I want to do, and there's a lot that I want to accomplish, but I also understand that there are certain things that are more important to me than other things. So a good example of this is I have a men's ministry that I envision making happen. I have my family that I want to absolutely steward to the best that I can. I have my relationship with the Lord. I have a career that is coming up as a police officer, and I have my career with the National Guard. The National Guard on that list of things comes last. So if I want to do all these things, but I can't do those top 4 things that I want to as well as I should be, Guard gets axed. And if my family and my career and my relationship with the Lord are suffering because I'm spending a lot of time on this ministry gets axed.
That's good, man.
Wow.
That's right.
And speaking a little bit to the side of to the failure side of things, there's a saying from the Meads, from Pastor Joe Mead and his family, that is, you can make one of two things your teacher, wisdom or pain. And there are some things that you can only learn through wisdom, and there are some things you can only learn through pain.
Wow.
Amen. Like how hard I can push.
Yes. Did you have a question?
Yeah, I have a question if you don't mind.
Okay.
I would say, what are some tips you would give to someone who's struggling with lust, asking for a friend?
There's no hope.
None whatsoever.
Yeah, cut out what you feed it with. So like, we fight battles we don't need to because we're not willing to make significant enough sacrifices.
Yeah.
And that's not the case for everybody, by the way. But like, sometimes, like, this isn't worth battling this for the next 2 years.
Yeah.
So you can set all kinds of locks and find your way around it for 2 years, or you just take a hammer to this thing, and that's worth it, by the way.
Right.
So I'm a fan of extremism when there's an extreme problem.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so, I'm not saying that's for everybody, I'm not even saying that's for you, but I'm just saying, sometimes we want to have a light level of discipline so we get light results.
Mm-hmm.
I would just encourage you, man, like to the level that you want to see yourself set free, just destroy every means by which you fall into temptation.
Yeah.
And for real, I'm not telling you like you got to check your smartphone, but maybe you do. Like it's just a thing. At the end of the day, like your soul is much more valuable than this thing, this $800 thing.
Yep.
So I would destroy the means by which you feed that thing. And there are less intense things, like we can talk about the practicals of not having your phone in your bedroom at night. Find out the time that you wind up falling into that, whether it's going out to the club and it's with real live girls, or whether it's like, okay, on my phone. Find out why it's a problem and eliminate your ability to do that. And that involves an accountability partner, and it involves setting rules for yourself that someone else helps hold you accountable to. But there's ways that we can set ourselves up to live a disciplined lifestyle.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah. You asked for practical things?
Huh?
Did your friend ask for practical things?
That was a joke. I was asking.
Oh, okay.
That's a man right there.
It might not seem practical, but I remember the spot I was driving on old M78 when I had the practical realization of the power of like Jesus' blood in this area of my life. I was driving down the road and I was like, on the back end of my like 5-year addiction with pornography, and I was like, all right, I'm not watching porn anymore, Lord. I'm like keeping my hands off my pecker. I'm doing everything right, but I still have all these crazy thoughts in my head that I cannot get rid of. And like, it's just this cycle of like, I've seen all the things and it's just a movie playing. And like, I'm like, God, I can't stop it. I can't stop it. And all of a sudden, like, I was driving down the road, going through one of these battles, and all of a sudden I went, I can just think about something else. And like, it was the most strange feeling where all of a sudden I'm like, the blood of Jesus has set my mind free.
Yeah.
Romans 12:2, do not conform to the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. And I went, oh, I can just choose to think about something else. I don't have to believe the lie that once that movie starts playing and I start thinking about those things, that I'm going to go down this path. I can say, all right, I have 10 seconds. The thought comes to my brain. I'm a 25-year-old celibate male. Things come into my head. I have 10 seconds to say, am I going to sit there and dwell about that? Like dwell on that topic and like make it a long-term thing? Or am I going to go, ooh, I know that's not good. I know I don't like that. I'm going to think about something else instead.
Yes.
And I just think about anything. Like, dude, I start building things in my mind. Like I'd sit there and think about like, all right, if I were to build a table, what would be the process if I were to do it out of wood? Like just stupid things, right? Practically though, I think about it. Yeah. Like, hey, what does my free throw shot look like? How am I positioned? When I draw back a bow, like I just start going through all the motions of like getting my mind fixated on something else. When I draw back a bow, what's my process in my head? How do I think about it? Where's my arms? Where's my eyes? And I just like get super in depth into it. But it was the realization that the blood of Jesus set me free from my own lustful thoughts that I went, oh,
absolutely.
fantastic. And then it's on me. I just get to choose.
That's really good.
That was helpful. Thank you.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Coach,
You have the authority and the ability to take every thought captive.
Yeah. Right.
Yes.
I
I just want to give you gentlemen a value of what you really have within you. And you're talking about lust, and I think you should understand the value of the seed that we've been given within men. And it's the value of semen. The vital energy, the semen that supports your life, which shines in your sparkling eyes, is the great treasure for you. 1 drop of semen is manufactured through 40 drops of blood. So 40 meals gives rise to 1 drop of blood. 40 drops of blood gives rise to 1 drop of semen. And 1 ejaculation can repopulate the entire United States. Sexual fluid is your glow, it's your vibrance, it's your contentment. It also gives you strength and your powers and your ability to be present as a man. As a person, it conserves the sexual fluid and begins to move upwards in the body and gains tremendous power. Just as you save your money in a bank, it saves your power of essence. So I think if you understand the value of what you've been given as a man, you'll save it to hold yourself of value.
Wow. That's deep.
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I didn't know.
40 cheeseburgers?
One drop.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you can look it up if you want to. That's not good.
It's crazy.
Wow, bro, that's really cool. Yeah.
Didn't you have a question?
Yeah, when you said like boys are boys and like close to the beginning talk, I got a little confused because like when you were saying like there's an extent to where you are going extreme with it, or I don't know. Like I just don't understand.
Yeah. So the old like the phrase is like, oh well, boys will be boys. You usually hear that after like some idiot in a frat roofied a girl and like won the court case or something like that. Well, boys will be boys. Like they just can't control their sexual desire. You usually hear that, and it's been downplayed a lot. People are like, that's a terrible thing. I'm tired of people saying boys will be boys. It's just giving them a reason to like get away with whatever they want to do. I'm not saying like all of that stuff, like when people are referring to it in that language, I hate that. Like that is not an excuse for you to be an idiot. But boys will be boys. Like I'm thinking of when all the things, when
Everything.
We're talking about having fun.
yeah, just having fun. Yeah, like just letting all your wiggles out. Like doing the things that seem like Neanderthal.
Yes.
Boys will be boys. Just get primitive and like go out and do things that push the limits. That's what I'm talking
It's
about.
like the thing,
Yeah.
like each and every one of us is different. We have our own like, ways of
We have our own wiggles. Yes.
And like I've had people like tell me like you're going too extreme with it, and they say like we should get that under control.
That's
So,
what I'm
Yeah,
speaking
nothing
to.
immoral.
That
Yeah, here's the thing. When a guy's like, oh, I'm watching porn, boys will be boys. Obviously, it's never that.
Mhm.
It's like, you can't do that. It's like, or you go on an axe murdering spree, you can't just say boy. But we're talking about having fun.
Yeah.
well, yeah. I mean,
So it's like
having fun.
nothing immoral. And there are things where you're being a little boy and you need to be a man.
Mhm.
Like if you're running around and playing with dolls and you're like, well, I'm just being a boy. Like, but within bounds. Like everything with discretion, everything with moderation.
Yeah.
So we live in the tension of, okay, we're having fun, guys are going to throw axes, and I don't know, drive cars around fast, do burnouts, that's great. But at the same time, you have responsibilities to go to work in the morning and be well rested, and take care of your family, and have responsibilities. So that's what we're talking about. We don't want to propagate the idea that you can't have any fun.
Yeah.
You know, and just because somebody was like, well, that's immature, doesn't mean you shouldn't do it.
Yeah.
Because sometimes those things are awesome. Like sometimes me and Reed running around in our shorts in the woods with axes and chop down trees. Yeah. That's awesome, man. And then if I did that every day, I'd be a little boy. But doing it every once in a while is awesome. And good for you. Does that help?
Yeah, that helps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And part of why you need to do stuff like this is because it's a little bit of wildness. And this is one of the things that attracts women to you, is you being a little bit wild, having a little bit of wild side. And another thing, when you get married, this is something else that she may try to tame. She may try to tame your wildness, and you absolutely cannot let that happen. You have to continue to have fun with the boys, doing things that are immature in her eyes. Big deal. Yes, get over it.
Yeah, Aaron touched on something. We'll close with this. Aaron touched on something that's really, really important. And we don't say anything we do to downplay a woman's role. Women are incredible, and we cannot do on the earth what we're meant to do without women. I don't just mean reproduce. I mean the mission of God cannot be accomplished without women.
Right.
I'm never saying anything to downplay them. However, women have a quality about them that is unfortunate, and it's this: they will try to craft you into a man that they don't actually want. And so it's because men are born to be cultivators and women are nurturers, and they're different roles. And so when a woman's trying to do, and essentially what Aaron just coined as taming you, once you're tamed, they don't want you anymore. This is why women will pester sometimes men, their husbands, into being a passive form of himself that they are no longer attracted to. And once it gets to that point, that's why you have women who no longer want to have sex with their husbands. This is why on sitcoms and in real life you hear men being like, oh man, I haven't gotten lucky in months. Right? That's a real problem. That's not just a joke. It's like, my wife doesn't want to have sex with me. You know why? Because she's not attracted to you because she's beat you down into a pacified version of herself. Wow. So I'm not saying we run amok and be irresponsible, but I'm saying there's a level of wildness to you that should never leave you. Like, and my dad will say, he's just really straight up with it. He's like, that's why sometimes I walk up to my mom, smack her butt, and walk away. And when she starts chirping at me about, I'm not a piece of meat, I just walk away and don't say anything. Right? He's joking, but it's proving a deeper point. There's got this party that's not tameable. Caleb loves me because I'm not tameable. I also make her wildly uncomfortable in public because I'm not tameable. But she loves it because she's attracted to it because it's unpredictable. And women like that because they like some adventure. So there's tension here, right? We're not wild men, we're not sleeping around, we're not being irresponsible. But are you guys tracking with what we're kind of talking about, this tension we're supposed to live in? There is a wildness to you that must remain and actually must increase. Yeah. And right, like, and this is why I hate when men make a joke, like the old ball and chain. Don't even make that joke. Can we just not make that joke? Stupid. And you know what? We're not making it because that's so degrading to women. It is, but more because it's like you don't get held down by anything. What are you talking about? You're emasculating yourself through a joke that you just made. Don't do that.
Woof.
Don't do that. You're also letting yourself off the hook for your own poor leadership, and that's not what we do. That's not what we do. We have to, even with our own language, set ourselves up to be the leader that we really want to be in our culture. And that means that you have to live in the measure of wildness and responsibility that you're called to be in. Does that make sense? I'm talking about two kind of opposite ends here, so is that still clear? Let's stand up. God, I just pray that you be in this room right now. Holy Spirit, we invite you.
Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Holy Spirit.
We invite you, God. We invite you, Jesus. God, tonight, everything we talked about, this isn't about like flexing or wafting our tail feathers around or strutting or trying to prove ourselves. Tonight, everything we talked about is about stepping into the fullness of what you've called men to be. And God, I pray that for every man in this room, would you take our hand and would you walk us into being the man that we're supposed to be? I pray that we would be that. Would we be lions in public but lambs in private? God, I pray that we would be men who, though we're strong and confident, when we're out with our wives and with our friends, God, would we be so humble and kneel and lay before you like sons. God, I'm asking that you would walk us into a measure of true biblical masculinity. God, would you help make us into the men that we have been called to be? God, I pray that there would not be a man in this room who ever settles for anything less than true biblical masculinity. I pray that you give us the confidence to be the leaders in our dating relationships and our marriages. I pray that you would imbue us with the confidence and the fearlessness that is required of us to be the men that you called us to be. And God, I pray that even above the fearlessness, above the confidence, God, would you give us the unction to be the men that we're called to be? I pray that when we step into churches, when we step into our families, when we step into our workplaces, God, would we feel the deep-seated desire to stand up and be a leader? Despite opposition, despite people not liking us or being rubbed the wrong way, would we feel the unction to be the strong leaders that we're called to be?
Yes.
God, we don't do it to be angsty. We don't do it to prove a point or to be fake or to try and front. God, we're doing it because you called us to do it.
Yeah.
The desire of our heart is to be obedient to the Lord, to step into the fullness of what you've called us to do and who you've called us to be. God, I pray that you begin to release vision over every man in this room. God, it is so difficult to live this life without a God-born vision. Would you just begin to release vision? God, I pray that you release vision for businesses. Would you release vision for the kinds of marriages, the kind of spouses that these men are going to end up with? I pray that it would be so clear that they I wonder if they would know God. I pray that you would give them plans and downloads for the careers they're going to go into, for the ministries they're going to lead. God, I pray that you would give them a vision that absolutely demolishes lust problems, that demolishes porn addictions, that demolishes all kinds of addictions, because it's just a way to try and substitute what we don't have in vision. God, give us a vision that decimates all that. Give us a vision for you that drives sin out of our life, because we want what you have for us more than we want pleasure. God, would you raise up a group of men who understand the beauty and the biblical nature of delayed gratification, of the biblical nature of discipline, the biblical nature of fearlessness? God, raise up a generation of men from this house.
Yes.
God, I'm asking that we would be the men that you meant for us to be when you created the foundations of the world. Would we be the men who you designed? When you looked at Adam and in perfection, you said, go labor and then feed off the fruit of the land because of the sweat of your mouth. Would we be those men who glory in the laboring that the King has issued us to go into? Who glory in the leadership that you've called us to? And God, will we be men who never again bow to fear, bow to passivity, or bow to anything but our Master Jesus Christ?
Yes.
Thank you, Lord. God, would you raise up real men out of this house? And with all the strength that we talked about, God, I'm asking that you would make us humble.
Yes.
Humble and meek. And God, I'm praying that in this group of men, there would be a beautiful marriage, a beautiful tension between strong and gentle, between fearless and meek. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. And that's the end of the recording. I pray that it inspires you, that it blesses you, and that it helps you to live more relentless. Guys, I love you. This panel was awesome, and I look forward to being able to do more with Mount Hope Young Adults. Take care, guys. Bye.